The scars on your body tell a story about your past and what you've been through. Anybody here got some scars in life? You've been scarred. See, I remember as a child, see my scars on my body. My childhood scars, what they do is they record the mishaps and close calls that scared my parents. I remember the scars on my right forearm while I was studying about these scars. I began to look at my body. And I looked on my forearms, and I have some scars on my forearms, and I began to look back, and it instantly reminded me, it took me back to a place and a time. I could smell what was going on in the atmosphere. I used to make donuts for a living. Some of y'all don't even know what I'm talking about. Tim Hortons donuts. I used to be the baker. And my wife was a police officer. Go figure. And I remember going into Tim Hortons donuts late at night. Had to work the midnight shift. And I remember coming home after a long night's work, and my clothes would smell like grease. It just stunk. My wife would say, take them right to the washer, put them right in the washer. Don't throw them in the dirty clothes, they stink. It's amazing how the scars on my arms reminded me about the smell. And I began to think the statements she would put them right in the washer. And then she would turn the water on, and the washer would begin to go, and then the steam from the heat of the water would start to cook the grease smell, and it would run through the house, and I could remember the stench of grease all over again, and it just made me sick. But I looked at the scars, and I was reminded, because baking at Tim Hortons, you have a big screen, and you would crank the donuts onto the screen. And you would drop the screen with two handles. You'd have a wooden handle here and a wooden handle here. You would scoop the screen up and you would drop it into this tub of hot grease. Yes, sir. And after you dropped it into the tub of hot grease, you would take two wooden sticks and you would time them, you would watch them, and as the color turned on the donuts, you would flip them with the hot sticks. And after you flip them, you let them sit for a moment, and then you would see the color, you would know they were done. You would grab the two wooden handles and you would lift them up. Well, when I lifted them up, one of the handles broke loose. And then my reaction, I reacted before I thought. And when it broke loose, I caught it with my forearms. And it burned the forearms. And I dropped it immediately, but I remember exactly what happened and how hot that grease was. Why? Because I had the scars to prove it. 20 years ago that happened, and I've got the scars still talking to me today. Someone say my scars are preaching. Then I looked down on my knees and I saw the scars on my knees, and they reminded me of playing football. See, I'm one of those competitive people like your pastor. Pastor Gaines is very competitive. That's why we love each other. If you don't know that side of your pastor, it's probably a good thing. Well, he come over to Canada always trying to beat me in something. I said, look, Jake, we ain't pastors right now. You got me by about 20 years, so I know I'm getting you. Yeah, I couldn't let him beat me. How you gonna let somebody beat me? I'm only getting him back because he preached for me a few months ago, and he was tearing me up. And I just had to sit there like, yeah. So this is payback. I'll be doggone if I'm going to let somebody his age beat me in anything. You can be basket weaving and you ain't beating me. But anyway, I was a competitive little something. And here I was playing football with my older brothers. And see, my older brother had a team. My older brother, those of you that know George, he's a big man. And George had all his boys, and me and the younger group, I had my boys. And every Sunday we'd play football against each other. Because we had speed and youth. They had size and wisdom. And it was on every Sunday. And here I am playing running back, working, boy. And I'm running, I'm shucking and driving, and I'm running through the hole, and my team makes the hole for me. And I go to the hole, and the hole collapses, so I go to make a cut, and I went left, and my knee went right, and I heard, and I fell to the ground, and I cried, don't touch me. And they took me to the hospital immediately, and I had surgery, and then I had a second surgery on my knee. But I'm reminded by the scars on my knees today. What happened some 18 years ago, 20 years ago. See, I have a scar on my left elbow. And I remember playing baseball back in the day. And I got a hit. And all we needed was a single to win the game. And because we had a man on second, and I figured a base hit will score the man at second, and we're winning this one. And so I got me a hit, and it was a nice hit right over second base. And our guy on second came in to score, and we won the game, but I wasn't happy or content with standing on first and jumping. I had to go to second. Why? Just because it was too good a hit to waste. And so here I go. I'm taking two. Only need one. Taking two. And I'm running to second. And now he's throwing the ball from the outfield, and it's a close play at second base. And here I got to dive slide because you know sliding feet first ain't pretty. See, you got to be pretty. So I had to dive. Well, when I dove, didn't realize that the ground was harder than I thought it was. And it ripped part of my elbow off. And I jumped up, boy. I was like, yeah, we won. Got back in that car. I was like, oh, God. Oh, Lord, help me. And I got a scar to prove it. And it's a reminder. And you know, I thought about Jesus, and Jesus was preaching. He was teaching. He said, Thomas, I've got an issue, Thomas. I don't have an issue that you're questioning them, the disciples, because you weren't here when I showed up the first time. So my issue is not that you're questioning them. I have more of an issue that you're questioning me, Thomas. Because what you don't understand is when you thought I wasn't there, and you told them, unless I touch his scars for myself, I will not believe. Right. He says, so that's why I'm coming. I believe that's why he walked through the wall the second time. There's a reason why God put that in the Bible. He had to show up and let them know, Thomas, I know you're in the room this time, so let me show up in a way where it almost amazes you. Let me just walk through. So he could have easily knocked on the door. He could have easily opened the door and walked in. He said, no, I got to show Thomas something. I got to show Thomas I'm still alive as I ever was before. Said he walked through the wall, through the door, and he looked and he said, how's everybody doing? Thomas, come here. I heard you talking last week, saying you didn't believe until you felt it. So come here, I want my scars to preach something to you. He said, come here, Thomas. I went through hell. You don't even know that I went through hell a few days ago. But let me show you that I am the one that I said I am. Let me show you that I said he would tear this building down, but in 3 days it would be raised up again. Let me show you that I am the one you've been talking about. I am the one you've been following. Thomas, I want you to come here. Come here, Thomas. Come here. Come here, Thomas. I want to teach you something, Thomas. Come here. So Thomas came over. He said, put your hand right here. Go on and feel that. Go on and touch that scar. And he said, now come here, Thomas, because you didn't just stop with that. That scar wasn't good enough. You wanted to see more. So I want you to put your hand right here now, Thomas. Yeah, go ahead and touch that one. Now what do you think, Thomas? And Thomas, the Bible said that Thomas said, my Lord. Come on, man. And after he got a revelation that, whoa, this is God. God looked at him and said, now, stop doubting me, Thomas. Why did he say stop doubting me, Thomas? Because he knew I got to work for you, Thomas. I got to work for these disciples that are here, Thomas. And I'm telling you right now, the work that I'm calling you to, you can't doubt me in this work. You can't doubt, because I'm going to cause some of y'all to walk on some water when other people are in turmoil and they're wondering, is this storm going to take me out? I call some of y'all to step out of a boat, step out of a situation, and walk on some things that are killing other folk. Are you all here with me? God has called somebody here. He said, you've got to stop doubting me. I'm about to do something with you you've never seen before. For your eyes have not seen, your ears have not heard the things that I have in store. Someone hit your neighbor and say, God got a plan for you. But you've got to stop doubting. You've got to stop doubting. Do you understand? Do you realize? Do you understand and realize that the only thing, there is one thing in heaven that is man-made. One thing in heaven that is man-made. What is that thing? That thing is the scars on the hands and on the feet of Jesus Christ. I look at Apostle Paul, and Apostle Paul says this. He says, from now on, let no one bother me, for I bear in my body the marks or the stigmata of the Lord Jesus Christ. Then in Galatians 6 and 17, it says, the brand marks of the Lord Jesus, he has branded me forever, Paul said. Soldiers, we look at soldiers when they come back from war. They are showing their patriotism. They went to battle on behalf of their country. And some of them come back, and all they have to prove it is the scars on their body or the scars in their mind. You've been scarred for such a time as this. Don't you waste a good scar. Listen, my scars are just proof. My scars are just proof that I made it through.